Hi, welcome to the Boston Asian American Film Festival's Filmmaker Q&A. I'm here for the Shorts block, Ties That Bind. I'm Kenny Penguin and I'm part of the Shorts Committee, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm here with two of our directors for films in the Shorts block, Kaia Rose from Fugetsu-Do and Jane Shih from Ahma and Arlene. Thank you for joining us. We're super happy to have you here, and we usually do this on a stage in front of everyone, so this is our first time doing it digital this year, but we're excited to do it. I guess I'll open up. The first question is, for both of your shorts seem like very personal stories for the people in the films. I just was curious, as directors, what made you approach the film the way that you did? You both took different options for storytelling, narrative and doc. So I'm just curious what made you choose those.
Yeah, I can start off. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's really wonderful. This is the premiere of the film, so very excited to have it out in the world and to connect with people virtually in this space, the kind of strange times we're in. It's great to be here with you guys virtually. So my short film is called Forgetsudo. It's about the Quito family who have owned a sweet shop in downtown LA for the last 117 years. I have been going there for a long time, since I was a kid, and there's something that's really it just drew me into the store, and I kind of fell in love with the store, which has stayed the same since the 60s or even earlier. Brian Quito, who's the owner now, who narrates the film, he has purposely kept the store the same because he said that people walk in and they go, oh my God, it looks exactly the same as it did when I was a child. And there are very few things in downtown LA that have that effect on people. And so I wanted it to be this kind of portrait of both Brian and his family and also of the store, because the store kind of captures all of the memories. It holds all of these memories, both joyful and painful memories, and kind of holds the legacy of their family and the community. It's kind of one of the really founding members of the Little Tokyo community, and kind of holds it together still. So I guess I was drawn into the store, but I wanted to tell it through Brian's voice, and he has this really beautiful resonant voice. When I met him for the first time, I was like, well, that would sound very good on camera. And so I wanted to just let him tell the story in his own way, and kind of have it be like, I don't know, like you're just going into the store and you're hearing his voice and you're kind of exploring this world that his family has created within the store, and all that's happened to them and all that they've done and all that they've kind of made it through and all that they've created in that process. So I think it is a very personal store for them. You know, it's kind of that their family and the store are one and the same in a way now. And so I think it was a natural fit to let him just have the story rooted in his voice only.
Thank you. So you knew Brian beforehand, or did you meet him after you decided to do the doc?
I actually, my mom had met him a few times. So I knew some of their story because they are a big part of Little Tokyo community. So I'd gone to the store a lot, and they have some of the sidewalk has some of the history of Little Tokyo, and outside of their store it has facts about Brian and stuff. So there was one time we went in and my mom was like, oh, that's Brian. And so we introduced ourselves, and that was when I heard his voice and he started telling us some stories, and I was like, this is cool. This idea started hatching. And then it took me it's been a long process, this film, because I've been kind of doing it on the side of other things. And so I think it was probably another year before I approached him, and then maybe another 6 months or more before I did the interview, and another 6 months or a year before I shot the film. So it's been a long time, and over those years we've gotten quite close, which has been really nice.
Cool, thank you. James, so your film seems it was based off your life experience. What made you choose to do a narrative version of this story?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I've been to Fugetsu-Do. Yeah, I'm in the San Fernando Valley, but yeah, whenever I go to Little Tokyo, I try to get some mochi there. And in Taiwanese we could say mochi. But yeah, it's like really legit, you know, like
yeah.
as far as so as far as my film, I had written a short. So as far as my personal experience, after college, I went to live in Taiwan for 2 years. And when I first arrived, in the first month and a half, I was accused of allegedly teaching English illegally. And so I didn't have like the proper documentation, and because on paper I'm just American. I don't have. My parents are from Taiwan, and they never applied for the paperwork to have a Taiwanese nationality. So I'm just American on paper. So because of that, I had to go report to the police station, and my aunt was like, "Hell, well, let's have grandma and I come with you, because my language ability really sucked at the time as far as Mandarin was concerned." So they came along, and my grandma was telling the police officers, "Oh, he doesn't need to teach illegally. Like I got I got money. I can take care of him." And just seeing that kind of like humorous like banter from my grandma, and also my own experiences and feelings of shame with like language, and also this kind of gap I have with my grandparents generationally and linguistically. This kind of made me want to make this film. Yeah, so I originally wrote a short story for like a Chinese class, and the teacher was like, "James, this is actually kind of funny. There's like some humor, and there's some like very interesting moments talking about identity." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." I didn't think anything of it until like I took a screenwriting class about like 8+ years later, and I was like, maybe let me develop this short story into a screenplay. And it morphed away from just the me being almost getting deported to like focusing more on the grandma. And then from there, after I went to grad school here in Cal State Northridge, and after I was like, what am I doing with my life? Let me make this movie. So I decided to like actually bring this film to life, and that's where we are now.
Yeah, thank you for creating the film. I was actually curious, during the process of writing and producing this, has making the film shed any new light on your experience, like going back, reliving your experience? Has it helped you kind of just understand it better, just give you a new new viewpoint of it?
Well, it makes me realize I should probably go apply for a Taiwanese passport, especially now, because they got their shit handled. Like they have their stuff handled as far as COVID's concerned. I'm like, man, they're just like they got the bars are open, and they've got people are interacting without face masks, and I was like, man. And as far as funding and working in Taiwan, it would have been good to have like a passport. But anyways, working on the film this was back I shot it in 2018. The process of making it just made me realize just there's a lot of I think it helped me connect more to my own roots, as far as, because we actually filmed in my grandma's home, and that home is basically a relic of like, you don't see many homes like that anymore in Taiwan, because a lot of them are being developed into more modern buildings. And so for me to capture that, before, who knows what happens in the future, it's still there, but it may change fairly soon. So capturing that, some of the streets of Lugang, where my father grew up and my parents raised him. Yeah, well, my grandparents raised him. It's just it's hard to put into words, but definitely I do feel a little bit more connected to my roots. Whenever, especially during these times when there's any sort of anti-Asian sentiment or anything like that, I always remind myself that I'm very proud of my heritage, and I don't give. Can we cuss on this or no? Probably not.
We should probably try to refrain from it.
Fine. Anyways, so yeah. So basically, yeah, whenever I come across anti-Asian sentiment or anything, I feel like I'm proud AF as an Asian, and I think part of that was the filmmaking process, and digging deeper into my own family history, and also my own feelings of guilt and shame of like losing that language. I relearned Mandarin as an adult, but actually Taiwanese, which is There's Taiwanese Hokkien. Hokkien is from the southern part of China, from the Fujian province, and that dialect went to Taiwan. So that's my grandma's first language. So towards the end of her life, I spoke to her in Mandarin, but she was much more, as she had onset of dementia, she reverted mostly to her native language of Taiwanese, and it was difficult to talk to her. So there are feelings of kind of guilt and shame of that language loss. But then as I grow up as an adult, I realized, I grew up in California. I grew up in the Bay Area. So, and my parents really wanted me to assimilate better. So for no fault of my own, that's why linguistically I had that loss. And as an adult, I felt I wanted to relearn those languages. So.
Thank you very much. Kaia, I had a question about, you use a lot of older footage in the background, not the background, but overlaid over newer things. And I thought that looked really cool in the film. Was it hard
Thanks.
finding a lot of that material?
Actually, no. The Japanese American National Museum in Little Tokyo has an amazing collection. It actually kind of came the other way around, where I was finding these really beautiful pieces. And there's some amazing footage that they have at Heart Mountain of people making mochi at camp, which Brian's father and grandfather both did. So I was kind of finding these pieces of archive, and then had to figure out how to integrate them with the footage that we'd shot in. And I didn't want to just cut to archive, because it felt like it was taking it out of the moment. And I wanted to stay in the moment and in the store and in the kind of present tense with Brian's story, but have these kind of almost like memories come to life through the archive. So you can kind of have images of what he's talking about, more like how you might imagine it, or how you might dream or something like that. So yeah, it kind of, somehow it just kind of all started coalescing, and I started playing with putting them on, overlaying them. And so there's certainly some shots that I had to go to the archive collection and work with the people there, who are amazing team of people, and find some shots that fit the narration. But there's beautiful stuff that I didn't end up using as well. So I highly recommend all filmmakers to go check out what they have.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how it kind of blended together, and I thought it looked really cool. But.
Thank you. Yeah, it was more tricky, kind of finding the right balance of how to overlay it and kind of how to make that balance work, but I'm happy with how it turned out, so thank you.
So this was originally just a question for Kaia, but since you both have been to Fugetsu-Do, did you guys have a favorite mochi flavor?
I do. I always get uguisu, which is just, yeah, I used to get the pink one, which is when I was younger, which is a little sweeter, but uguisu, as I've grown up, I tend to go towards uguisu. How about you, James?
Which one is that?
It's the mugwort, has mugwort mochi and kind of a yellow powder on top.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the classic one with like the white and red bean filling is always, that's a good go-to, especially with like tea or, yeah. Yeah, and do they have like the matcha green stuff there? I'm trying to remember. It's been a minute since I've been there. But yeah, anyways, like any of the mochi is pretty solid. And even the one with the pink on the outside, yeah, like have that with like tea or something. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a chocolate one too, named after Brian's son Corey, which has this chocolate ganache. It's like chocolate mochi with chocolate ganache, and it's really good.
Oh, nice.
Dangerously good.
So James, I had a question. Has your family seen the film, and what was their reaction to the film?
It's not bad. My dad said it's not bad. Yeah. So that's actually a pretty big praise from him. He's like, it's not bad. My mom, yeah.
Oh, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, my mom, she helped invest in the film, and she was like, "Oh wow, so you spent all that money just for this? Oh, okay."
Well, I thought it came out amazing. I really enjoyed it. It's really intimate film, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think my mom kind of, yeah, I think she liked it. Yeah. But she didn't say it directly, but yeah.
So there was like a lot of like in the film, there's a lot of language barrier issues. Compared to real life, how were you able to bond with your grandmother with you said you relearned Mandarin as an adult, but was there any transitioning that was harder for you?
Yeah, I would say it took me at least, I'm not the best student, but it took me about a year or so to get more conversationally fluent. And this is already after like I had years of Chinese school as a child, so I know how to use the phonetic system in Taiwan, Boppo, Mofo, and also my writing is I know the stroke order, like that comes intuitive to me. But as far as the language, like getting conversational, that was tough, and listening skills. So that took me about a year or so. But yeah, I think with my grandma, my paternal side, she spoke Mandarin, Japanese, and Taiwanese. And I could see, I could, so speaking to her in Mandarin was really great towards the second year of my stay in Taiwan back, like this is over like 10 years ago. And so I just hearing stories about her and how she met grandpa, it was like really, and hearing it in directly from her instead of through like a parent translating or something. It was really, I think, an amazing experience. But yeah, it's still not her native language. My maternal grandma, she only spoke Taiwanese and Japanese, and the Japanese is because of the colonial history in Taiwan, which Taiwan was a part of the Japanese Empire in 1895 to 1945. So I'm actually learning some Japanese now, but as far as Taiwanese, it's a little bit harder to find learning materials, but that's something I also want to improve as well. Yeah.
Cool, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Kaia, so like the film shows a lot of passing down, like the story's been passed down from generation to generation. Has there been anything that's in your own family that has been passed down to you that you would like to bring to future generations?
Oh, that's a good question. Nothing as tangible as a store. um, my grandmother was an artist. I was really close with her growing up. And so we've been kind of rediscovering some of her drawings recently, and slides. We've actually been doing this while we've been quarantined here. My brother and I have been digitizing all of the family slides. So that's been a really interesting experience. So I don't know if there's anything quite as much of a legacy like that, but I think kind of the arts and creative expression, and whether that be painting, drawing, writing, poetry, that's all been a big part of our family growing up. When my brother and I were growing up, and definitely something that, looking back at past generations, I'm kind of like, oh, I see it. I see the threads linking us together. But yeah, no, I think that what the Quito family have is pretty special. You know, where Corey Quito, Brian's son, is, you know, he's working at the store now and planning to take it over. And when he does, he'll be the fourth generation, which I think might be the only fourth generation Japanese American family in Little Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
So there really aren't very many even third generation businesses left. So I think their stories is pretty unique in LA anyways. So yeah, I kind of live vicariously through them. I think I'm kind of in awe of what they've managed to create.
Thank you. James, is there anything in your family that's passed outside of the language aspect that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I mean, my grandma taught me piano, so I know like basic piano, but I need to practice. So originally in the film, instead of and if you've seen the film, it's kind of like she paints, and then like it's hinted that the grandson had learned drawing and painting from the grandma. Originally in the script, it was a piano. But we changed it because the lead actress, the Ahma, played by Wu Meihe, I guess Wu Meihe, Meihe Wu, she had training as a painter before, so we kind of adapted the story to that. And as far as that, I think my grandma, she used to like knit these kinds of she could like knit flowers, and she could knit like these swans and stuff. So I don't do that, but I do filmmaking. So I think that artistic aspect I saw in her growing up, it's just like, yeah, just her ability to manifest works of art. I just found very, very cool. Yeah. And then my grandpa, he used to like do qigong and exercise every morning. That's something I try to do now, especially during quarantine, is try to stay healthy. But I think a lot of these things, it's maybe invisible grow up, but like as I mature, I do see like connections of my own habits and my own ways of thinking, and how it connects to my grandparents and my parents. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing. So I'm going to have one more question. I'll give both of you some time to answer it. But I'm just curious, what are you guys working on now, and any information you'd like to share with the fans in Boston?
Let's go first.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as far as me, I have a feature script that I've been rewriting. I called Uproar. It's about, I pitched it at the Taiwanese American Film Festival last year before the pandemic. And I'm rewriting that. It's about two friends, when one of the two Asian American friends, when one of them kind of like this rebellious, angry student named Wes, he takes the school hostage at a dance by gunpoint, and his best friend Sean has to come in and probably talk him down. The story is kind of like a lead up to that, like kind of their lives, and this idea of, it's a 90s period piece, and it's about kind of that era of like Columbine high school shootings. That's my generation. I was in high school when that happened, so that kind of left a trauma that actually there's no school shootings now. I mean, if there's any upside to COVID, yeah. But I do think that those feelings of alienation and bullying, they still exist, and there's cyberbullying now too. So those are things I want to explore, as well as race. And then I have a pilot that I've been sending out to get notes on. That's about online dating and about feelings of loneliness and trying to find validation. It's about Asian American male trying to find validation through women, and also the unique Asian American male experience in dating, because as far as OkCupid statistics are concerned, we're the lowest on the rung for dating. So it's something I want to explore, and so that's a pilot I'm writing. And I'm currently working as a health and safety officer for a series of shorts produced by Disney. So that's like a whole new like sector of a department that's been created to combat COVID in film production. So it's been interesting to see, because this is maybe how film production is going to look like for the next year or so. So I'm doing that as well.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Kaia, is there anything that you would like to share that you're working on, or thoughts?
Yeah, that's super interesting, James. I'd love to hear more. Yeah, actually, tie it together with your previous question as well. That the other thing I think from my family that's been passed down, that also is in the Quito family, that I think kind of permeates all of my work, is kind of this legacy of fighting for social justice. So something that Brian in the film, he's really a kind of cornerstone of the community, and during the COVID times, he's really been helping the whole community try to get through it and make sidewalk, dining areas for the businesses, and he's always so supportive of that community. And my grandparents both have a long history of that as well. So that's something that I've always tried to bring into my work. I do, right now, I'm kind of full-time doing climate communication. So making lots of shorts, mainly for online use, in terms of kind of pushing for more ambitious climate action. So that's kind of been my world for the last 5 years, since I went to the Paris Agreement COP21 event, the summit, in 2015. So that most of my daytime work is focused on that. And then I do have another project that I filmed before. I filmed Forgetsudo, and it's just been sitting on the shelf as I've been finishing other things. My mom is from LA, and so that's part of, it's another LA short, which I kind of, LA has always fascinated me and kind of drew me in with all of her stories growing up in the 50s. So it's just kind of a small short about me, my mom, and my hatred of Sepulveda, the Sepulveda Street in
Oh, really?
LA, which I'm sure, James, you know. It's one of the longest streets in LA.
Yeah,
and
it's huge. Yeah.
huge, and it kind of goes everywhere. And when I was first learning to drive, I went down to LA and got lost, but I didn't know that Sepulveda was curving around. So I thought we kept crossing Sepulveda, and I kept thinking that I just turned around, and I didn't know that it was like we were going the right way, but we just kept crossing it because it curves around. Anyways, since then I've had a very like love-hate relationship with this street. So my mom and I drove from the very beginning of Sepulveda, which is way north of LA, to the very end, and kind of we'll see what it turns out to be, because I haven't edited it yet, and I haven't looked at the footage in about 4 years probably. But it's like a little portrait of me and my mom and Sepulveda. So we'll see what that turns into.
Did you grow up in LA, Kaia, or?
I grew up actually just south of Santa Barbara, a little town called Carpinteria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we went to LA a lot because my mom was from there, and so I've never actually lived in LA, but it's one of those places I've kind of circled around a lot of my life.
Yeah, it's probably for the best, especially now with like, the LA County numbers are still peaking. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for sharing, and we definitely wish you luck on all your future projects, and hope that they will also be in our film festival one day as well. But unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much to Kaia and James for joining us today. I know it was a little last minute, but we're happy you could join us. Thank you for everyone else that's watching, and I hope everyone, and to all the other filmmakers to the Ties That Bind Shorts program. Also, do not forget to click the link on the bottom to fill out the audience vote for the Audience Choice Award at the bottom of the screen. And please tell all your friends about the screening and share your information about the filmmakers that you've seen today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.